Alright, let's see. So I got that turned off, that's turned off, that's turned off. That apparently is turned on though. I do think the stream is live, and I do think that we're ready to get into this. That's a lie. I am not ready to get into this. I don't want to do this. This is going to be a bad day, but let's get into it anyway. Hello! Shadowcat back! We're back with the tabletop module. We're back to 40k. We're back to Psykers, and under any other circumstances, I would be happy for today. I'm really liking Psykers so far. I think Psykers are going to be really fun. I think it's going to be really exciting when we get to play this module and people get to roll the dice and see how powerful of a Psyker they're going to be, which is probably not very powerful, but there's always that chance that you might roll a really powerful Psyker. And how will that change the game as we're playing? Because, I mean, if you have somebody who, if this is like a traditional fantasy game, you say you're raiding like a goblin nest or something, you know, walking in there with swords and arrows and daggers and stuff like that and killing goblins, that's one thing. But what if, for some random reason, the fighter just knew the spell Chain Lightning? Yeah, that would change the dungeon a little bit, wouldn't it? So, Psykers are definitely going to be a wild card thrown into things. And for many DMs, I think that'd be a bit of a headache, maybe something to be avoided, because, I mean, you don't really want to have things be too overpowered. But no, I'm not like most DMs. I think it's absolutely possible to take something overpowered and then balance it in-game. Yes, are Psykers going to be powerful? They sure are. However, does that mean that they're going to break everything? No, it just means you prepare for it. It's that simple. Don't end your entire, dungeon or whatever it is with just simply having a big bad end boss that needs to be killed. Have something that they can't just blast their way through. Maybe they have to escape. Maybe the entire dungeon is falling down. And they can't just blast everything, because if they do any environmental damage, it might begin a countdown as the place begins to collapse. Ooh, now suddenly you don't want to start throwing fireballs. See, you have to be smart as a DM. However, today, I guess I should get rid of this thing. Today is going to be absolutely awful. Because we've done evocations, we've done energy release, we've done boons and conditions and everything else. Today, however, today we have to get into the things that every DM fears. So, a long time ago in Dungeons & Dragons, and this continued into Pathfinder as well, when you play a wizard, one of the things that you usually do as a wizard is you pick a particular school. Now, there are many schools to choose from depending on what you want to do. There are things like evocation if you want to throw missiles and fireballs. There's things like necromancy if you want to raise your own army of the undead. There's my personal favorite, illusion, where you can create pretty much anything you want with varying levels of realism. Great for absolutely screwing with people. It's a lot of fun. There's conjuration if you want to, say, summon monsters or travel between long distances. Abjuration, enchantment, all kinds of stuff like that. And then there's one. Divination. Now, the way this works is that when you choose your school, you get a bonus for the school that you choose, and you have to give up the opposing school. That is to say that if you wanted to prepare a spell from your opposing school, you could do so, but it'll cost you a spell slot that's one higher than it was before because it's that much more difficult for you to cast it. So if you chose, what was it? I want to say, like, if you chose necromancy as your school, I believe abjuration was your opposing school. And so you got a bonus for casting things like Raise Dead, but if you wanted to, what's a good abjuration spell? If you wanted to cast, say, Stone Flesh. Actually, that might be Transmutation. I'm not sure what a good Abjuration spell would be off the top of my head. But either way, if you wanted to do that, it would cost you, for a level 1 spell, a level 2 slot. The one school that you were not allowed to get rid of, though, was Divination. And the reason for that is because everybody got rid of Divination. Nobody had any use for Divination. I mean, what is this Divination stuff for? Oh, I can cast the Identify spell? Oh, I mean, Identify is really good, but if I have to choose, while I'm out adventuring, do I bring Identify or do I bring Fireball? 9 out of 10 dentists are going to choose Fireball. So, you were never allowed to get rid of Divination. This was both a blessing and a curse. It's kind of a blessing because most players never truly grasp the sheer malice and unadulterated contempt Divination has for the game of Dungeons and Dragons or for DMs in general. Because Divination, more than anything else, has the capability to not just break a game, but to absolutely burn the entire thing down to the foundations and then salt the earth that it was built upon. Divination has the capability of literally unraveling every single secret that the DM has put into the game. It is capable of finding every single hidden item that the DM has scattered across the land. Divination can give you the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the big bad and boss, so that you can literally find them while they're sleeping and just wrap a rope around their neck and squeeze real tight. Divination is one of those things that most people never grasp, and every single game master in the world is thankful that they never truly grasp the power of divination. Now, to an ever so slightly lesser degree is telepathy. Because if you have a telepath in your party, whether that be a natural-born telepath or a magical telepath, this is almost as bad as having divination in your game. Because it means that this whole idea of using diplomacy, or sense motive, or role-playing, or anything like that can be completely thrown out the window. You don't need to negotiate with somebody if you can just read their mind and say, well, I've already read your mind, I know exactly what you're thinking, I know exactly what you'll accept, I know exactly what you want, and your terms are acceptable. Here we go, we're going to do this deal instead. You go up to somebody who might have some tangential knowledge about the big bad endgame boss, and you can just read their mind, and suddenly, oh, so the big bad grand wizard that's been oppressing this entire town, he doesn't actually live in the castle? He lives over here in this rather large house nearby the castle? Oh, great. Well, we're just going to sneak in there and murder him. Middle of the night, no problem. Telepathy is just one rung below divination. You actually have to work a little bit for the answers, but the answers are still there, just waiting for you to uncover them. And that's what we're going to do today. We are going to make divination and telepathy for Psykers. There is absolutely no way that this goes well for me. I am basically making the perfect anti-GM weapon. And I'm gonna hate it. And somebody had the sheer, unadulterated audacity to say, have fun today. Today will not be fun. So, let's go ahead and get this started then. And before I do that, I'm going to check the chat. Blizz was in here first. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you here. I see JP is in the chat. Hello, JP. Good to see you too. Oh, we're not going to have fun today. We are not going to have fun today. So let's bring stuff up. Alright, there's our browser. There's everything else. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at Psykers because I want to see what is under the telepathy discipline. What is in here on this level, and then we'll work from there. So, it says here, telepaths are psychers whose mental expertise lies in contacting and controlling the minds of others. With a single thought, a telepath can blast away their foe's sanity, induce states of numbing terror, or possess their victims' thoughts and mold their actions as if they were the psycher's own. Fun! So the first thing we have here is Psychic Shriek. They breathe in deeply the powers of the warp before emitting a banshee howl of psychic energy that shreds the minds of their enemies. Okay. I mean, we already have a spell that kind of sounds like that. We may just go ahead and borrow that. Dominate. The Psyker reaches into the foe's mind, trammeling their soul and crushing their will to fight on, utterly dominating their psyche. There is literally a spell called Dominate Person in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. It's one of the classic spells. So, maybe. Mental Fortitude. Despair is turned into fresh hope, and courage into insane heroism as the telepath projects inspirational thoughts of victory into the minds of their allies. That is actually something that can already be done, and not just by wizards and sorcerers and clerics. It is literally the base kit for bards. That is bardic magic right there. So we might be able to borrow from bards to fill in that niche. Next is Puppet Master. The telepath possesses their victim's mind, controlling their movements, their aim, and their trigger fingers as if they were marionettes. Now, I'm not sure exactly how that differs from Dominate. We may have to look into that more, because I'm not sure. Then there's Terrify. Even the bravest of heroes quake in terror as the telepath assails them with images from their own darkest and most dreadful nightmares. Again, this is a spell that we can just borrow from. Invisibility. Reaching into the mind of their foes, the Psyker obscures themselves and their allies from the enemy's visual line of sight. Now, this one is interesting. This one is interesting because it really begs the question of how do things work? Because when we're talking about invisibility, there's really not a mechanical difference between I can't be seen and you can't see me. We can take these two statements as two separate and divided statements. The first one, I cannot be seen. This would imply that you cannot be seen by anything or anyone. That means that since we're talking about the future, not only could the enemy not see you, but cameras can't see you, sensors can't see you, robots can't see you, etc. Invisibility in this sense would imply that you are not actually invisible, it's just that you have made it so they can't see you. It's essentially the difference between putting an enchantment on yourself and putting your enchantment on them. And it reminds me a lot of Ghost in the Shell. If you've never seen Ghost in the Shell, there are a few key moments where people who have prosthetic eyes, okay, they have fake eyes, they're mechanical, they have their eyes hacked so that they literally either can't see what's going on, which is usually the case, or they can even have images projected to them that can obscure their vision. And that's more or less what we're talking about here. Now, how we're going to do this, I don't necessarily know. Because I have some thoughts, but we'll have to work on how exactly that works. Hallucination. Paranoia, confusion, and panic are heightened to a debilitating degree as the telepath alters their foe's perceptions of reality, creating fearful visions and confusing or befuddling the enemy, or even generating the belief that their fellows are truly the enemy. So there's a few things going on there, and I do believe that we already have stuff for that. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to look at spells and see how many of these we already have. So, for example, that last one, hallucination. Can I spell it? We've got auditory hallucination, we've got mad hallucination, audiovisual, complex hallucination, triggered hallucination, permanent hallucination. I want to look at the permanent hallucination because it seemed very general. So this spell functions as audio-visual hallucination, except that the phantasms you create include visual, auditory, olfactory, tactile, and thermal components, and the phantasm follows a complex script. The phantasm follows that script without your having to concentrate on it and can react to stimuli that the target perceives as appropriate for the script. Unlike most illusions with a save to disbelieve, if the target disbelieves the permanent hallucination, she can choose to end the effect entirely at any time. Alright, so let's go back to audio-visual hallucination then. Alright, so this functions the same as auditory hallucination, except you can include the image of any object, creature, or force you imagine. You can move the image while you concentrate. After ceasing your concentration, you can define simple movements or changes for the phantasm to perform. That can be explained in 25 words or fewer. The image disappears when struck by an opponent unless you cause the illusion to react appropriately or instruct it to do so. Okay. And auditory hallucination. The sound can include intelligible speech. Instead of precisely imagining a sound, you can clarify the sound the subject knows well. None of these things actually have a written out thing, which does tend to be true when it comes to most illusion spells. Things are kind of played fast and loose. It's really something for people who want to be flexible, which is why I really love illusion spells. So we do have hallucinations here. We have auditory, we have mad hallucinations. So let's take a look at mad hallucinations. So with this spell, it induces a hallucinogenic reality in the mind where the mind of your target. Surfaces seem to swim, movement constantly distracts the eye. They take a -2 penalty on will saving throws, caster level checks, intelligence-based skill checks, and wisdom-based skill checks. Now that's something more like what I'm looking for. And this lasts for 5 minutes per level to a maximum of 1 hour. So we might be able to work with that. So that takes care of our hallucinations. Invisibility, we've already discussed. Terrify. So we don't have anything in here necessarily called terrify. However, horror? No, not that one. Fear. Ah, there we go. Cause fear. So, the affected creature becomes frightened. If the subject succeeds a will save, it is simply shaken for 1 round. Creatures with 6 or more hit dice are immune to this effect, cause fear, counters, and dispels remove fear. So, that's essentially what we're looking for. It causes them to become frightened or shaken. If we look back here, it literally didn't say anything about that. But that's fine. I think it's time we get started here. So let's go ahead and start with Psychic Shriek. And we may as well get started with the easiest ones, really. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a box around this stuff. That way I can keep it kinda sorta separate. Right there should be good. Okay. Telepathy. Alright, this is all telekinesis. So I'm just going to put up here telekinesis. And then we'll keep this down here as telepathy. We'll copy this down here just because we're probably going to need it. Alright, first up, Psychic Shriek. Now, this literally says it is emitting a banshee howl of psychic energy that shreds the minds of their enemies. That's going to be a little interesting because we already have something kind of like that. Almost had to sneeze. Tried to stop it. Couldn't stop it. Alright, level 9 spells. So what we want is probably going to be under evocation? No? Where is it? Where is it? Alright. Abjuration, no. Conjuration, also no. Enchantment, no. Crushing Hand. Where is it? There it is. It's under Necromancy. Wail of the Banshee. I've looked at this one before on stream. It's one of the classic spells. It's been around forever. And JP says, don't stop a sneeze, you'll factory reset yourself. I wish I could factory reset myself. Do I get a new body for that? No, that would require a recall and a warranty. Okay, well, never mind. Alright, so, Wail of a Banshee. It is actually a close range spell, not that that matters. It's close range, however, it is a radius spread, so it doesn't matter what direction you're facing, it's hitting everything. When you cast a spell, you emit a terrible, soul-chilling scream that possibly kills creatures that hear it, except for yourself. The spell affects up to 1 creature per caster level, inflicting 10 points of damage per caster level. The creatures closest to the point of origin are affected first. So, automatically looking at this could be psychic, it could be sonic, it could be bludgeoning, it could be anything. They do not state. It just says 10 points of damage per caster level. And since it's a level 9 spell, which you only get at like level 17 if you're a wizard, I believe, that's a lot of damage. It's 170 damage. It's a bad day for somebody. And this is actually the toned down version, because it used to be that Wail of the Banshee just straight up killed you. So you had to make a will save versus death. And if you failed the will save, then you took damage, which might kill you anyway. Wail of the Banshee has been kinda nerfed. But okay, I think we can do this. Now, instead of the spell affecting up to one creature per caster level, we can use Psychic Sensitivity for that. And the rest of it can kind of stay the same. So the range, we can make this close. And for the effect, we can just go ahead and we can say as Wail of the Banshee. And what's a symbol for exchange? I guess just equals. And so level equals sensitivity. So if we replace level with psychic sensitivity, that means that if we were to take, say, I don't know, well, let's just go with our alpha. Let's see how much we can really dial this in. Our alpha uses Wail of the Banshee, and that means that it can affect up to 16 people within a radius of, I don't know, 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 levels. Well, if we base it all on sensitivity, I may not like that actually. But if we base it on sensitivity, that would be plus 8. 8 times 5 is 40, plus, so 65-foot radius. So 16 creatures in a 65-foot radius, dealing 160 damage to all of them. The problem that I have with this, though, is that there's no dice being rolled. Yeah, I don't like the fact there's no dice being rolled. We're playing a dice game. I want to roll some dice. So we already have the fact that we're using sensitivity in place of level. And I don't know if I want to do that or not. Here's the thing. What makes this... Okay, what makes this right here any different from this? So we already have Sonic here, okay? We have Sonic damage. And we can channel Sonic into any one of these different shapes. We can do either a ray, line, cone, or a burst. Now, the burst has a range to it because I think that you should be able to just, like, have an explosion somewhere else. And if we go all the way to the top level of this, it's a 25-foot radius at medium range that deals d6s. In the case of our alpha level Psyker, that would be 16 d6s. What's the maximum output on that? So get up my calculator, and 16 times 6 is 96. So we're talking already, there's a sonic burst here that is... it's less powerful. So I don't think I want to do damage, actually. What if we go old school? Like I said, I don't actually have a 3rd edition book handy, so I can't really look into that. But like I said, Wail of the Banshee used to be lethal. What if we go back to that? What if we were to make Wail of the Banshee a point-blank AoE? And what if, when you use this, it can affect a number of people up to your sensitivity? So if you're like an Alpha Psyker, you would roll for it. And what if the What if it was just straight up death? That'd be overpowered. Okay, that would be seriously overpowered. But what if not only do we make it a save versus death, but what if we give it friendly fire? So the Wail of the Banshee could be just this absolutely untamed unleashing of psychic energy, lashing out at every living thing around you. It doesn't differentiate between friend and foe. It doesn't care whether you're a sentient person or an animal. Every single living thing around you, it reaches out and tries to destroy. I'm going to go ahead and put close radius here because that's what it is. And I'm going to go ahead and say it affects a number of targets equal to, well, just equal to sensitivity. And it's going to be a will DC psychic power. So if you are an alpha level psyker and you go to use this, that means that you will just tap into the warp. You can scream, you can target up to 16 people around you, you know, starting from the closest. And every single one of them will have to make a will DC. That means that you can just like use, or you can do sonic damage like up here. But the DCs up here for these, they're D4s. So I should probably write this down actually. Yeah, right here is fine, I suppose. This will be fine. Psychic power and die. So it's going to be level 1 through 4, level 5 through 8, level 9 through 12, level 13 through 16, and level 17 through 20. And this will be a D4, a D6, I believe. Yeah. D6, D8, D10, and D12. So your level 1 alpha level psyker, okay, just to prove how incredibly unbalanced and dangerous these guys are, that would be up to 16 targets in which he could just straight up kill. And it would be 16, or a DC equal to 16 D4s, which means that basically nobody is going to be able to survive this. And it's going to be a will DC equal to the psychic power versus death. And again, does not differentiate between friend and foe, so if you decide you're going to use this in the middle of a great big melee, I mean, yeah, you might win, you also might be the last one standing. And just because you're new, or the other players get to re-roll characters, it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to trust you anymore. So maybe use this one with care. Alright, what was next on the list? Next is Dominate. So we're going to do Dominate and Puppet Master together here. So, dominate person. Now, again, this is a classic. This has been around forever. And it's one that not as many people take as you would think. But that's mostly because it's an enchantment and most people don't really pay much attention to enchantments, for the most part. At least in my experience. I've never met an enchantment wizard before, or an enchantment player. Okay. You can control the actions of any humanoid creature through a telepathic link that you establish with the subject's mind. If you and the subject have a common language, you can generally force the subject to perform as you desire within the limits of its abilities. If there's no common language, you can communicate only basic commands such as come here, go there, fight, stand still. You know what the subject is experiencing, but you do not receive direct sensory input from it, nor can you communicate with it telepathically. Once you have given a dominated creature a command, it continues to attempt to carry out that command to the exclusion of all other activities, except those that would be necessary for day-to-day survival, such as sleeping, eating, and so forth. Because of this limited range of activity, a sense motive check against a DC 15 rather than 25 can determine that a subject's behavior is being influenced by an enchantment effect. I think this is what we want. I do think that the whole... This is essentially Puppet Master. Yeah, I think this is essentially Puppet Master. So direct mind control is one of the things that I was expecting when I walked in here. And I think I'm just going to combine these. And I'm just going to put these under dominate. So dominate. However, I am going to go one step further than this. I'm going to go one step further. So this is going to be a close range spell. But, and this is going to be really, really key, it is going to affect more than one person. So this is again going to affect the number of targets equal to sensitivity, and the will DC save is going to be your psychic power. And then after that, it's going to be as dominate person. So everything that's in here, we will be able to do with these people. So subjects resist this control, obviously, and any subject forced to take actions against its nature receives a new saving throw with a +2 bonus. Obviously, self-destructive orders are not carried out. Once control is established, the range at which it can be exercised is unlimited as long as you and the subject are on the same plane. You need not see the subject to control it. If you do not spend at least one round concentrating on the spell each day, they receive a new saving throw to throw off the domination. So again, this is where Psykers, I think, are really going to shine. This ability to just take over their mind. So if you're in a firefight or something, the Psyker could theoretically just, peek up over a metal crate or something, look at how many people are out there, and just, as long as they're all within range, just try to dominate every single person over there. It would be incredibly powerful. However, we also have to look at this. So, if you're an alpha level Psyker, when you roll for that will save DC, it is going to be 16 D4s at level 1. That's a maximum of a DC 64. That's a lot. However, if you are on the lower end, if you're a Moo, that's only 5 D4s. That maxes out at 20. Essentially what we're talking about with somebody like a Moo Psyker is somebody who is... Because again, the green, these are people who show this power in their lives, but they don't realize they're doing it. For somebody like a Moo, that would be a person who can tell people what to do and they just do it. There's no real reason given why. You assume it's some kind of strange charisma. Maybe they have a silver tongue. Or hell, maybe they're a witch. Who knows? But these are people who seemingly always get people to do things for them, whenever they ask, or whenever they demand, whatever it happens to be. But it's a DC 20, which means that, is it going to work most of the time? For most of your average people who don't have a great will save, like for your average human being, just assume that they have the stats of 10 across the board. Maybe they peak over a little bit, but just assume 10 across the board. That means that there's a 50-50 chance that it's going to work. They have a 50-50 chance of ignoring it in general, and since your maximum is 20, you have a roughly 50-50 chance of rolling higher than their 10. Now it goes up from there, obviously. But however, if you're like a pi, which is the absolute lowest level of having any kind of power at all, you'll never be able to get anyone to do something. You can only affect one person at a time, and it would happen so rarely that you would just brush it off as, I asked them to do something, and they did something for me. My lucky day. So it's not going to matter for the most part. Once you get into this area, these people are talking, you're talking about a DC between a maximum of 32 to 40. But these are sanctioned psychers here. Not only do they know what they're doing and what they're capable of, it's expected that they're able to do these things competently and reliably. I do believe this fits in well. It could be incredibly broken, but that's going to be the cost of having a psyker on your team. Also keep in mind that every time you use psychic powers, let's not forget, okay, even as awesome as psychers look, never forget this. Every single time you try to dominate people like this, for every one that you roll, which on a D4 is a 25% chance, every time you do it, this might happen. Alright, so, I mean, those are the breaks. So the next one. Mental fortitude. Despair is turned to fresh hope, courage into insane heroism as the telepath projects inspirational thoughts of victory into the minds of their allies. I've got something for this. I've got something for this. Heroism. Hollow heroism. Let's go back up to the top. Here we go. Heroism. So the idea of heroism is simple. This spell imbues a single creature with great bravery and morale in battle. The target gains a +2 morale bonus, and that's important, on attack rolls, saves, and skill checks. Basically, they make it better for you to succeed. And there are some things that can also increase morale checks, or morale bonuses. It's important to differentiate these things. So we already have heroism. Greater heroism works like that, except it becomes a +4. It also gives them immunity to fear effects and temporary hit points equal to your caster level. I'm not inclined to make it greater heroism, but I'm also more inclined to just do this the way I've done a lot of other things, where we make it equal to the sensitivity. So why don't we do that? What's it called again? It's called Mental Fortitude. Nope, I don't want to do that. So, Mental Fortitude. The range, of course, will be close. This is going to be affects a number of targets, just like the other one was, but with a difference. There is no will save. I mean, I guess if you want to, you can, but I don't know why you would. And it's going to be as heroism. For a number of turns equal to psychic power. So if you're a low-level psyker, like a Moo, who only has a 5, you could be... Oh, wait, hold on. Well, no, as... Do I want to leave it as it is, or do I want to increase that bonus? Honest question. Should we leave this as the standard +2 morale bonus, or should we tie this into your sensitivity as well? Obviously, your sensitivity, in general, affects the overall effectiveness of most of the Psykers' abilities. I mean, if 2 Psykers wanted to, say, cast a fireball, the Psyker with the higher sensitivity can make a bigger fireball than the one with the lower sensitivity. The same thing should be true with bonuses. Should we make the morale bonus equal to the sensitivity? This means that if you were to stay low-level Moo Psyker, that would still be a +5 morale bonus, which is pretty significant. A +5 essentially puts it into the realm of greater heroism, and this is a level 5 spell, so we're talking about a level 11 character, more or less. I'm inclined to agree, just because I like the idea that if there were an alpha level Psyker to do this, that alpha level Psyker would be able to imbue a +16 morale bonus to attack rolls, saves, and skill checks on up to 16 people. That could be a whole squad. And I can imagine a squad under the bolstering of this one Psyker literally scaling a vertical wall. +16 on skill checks, that includes climbing. Scaling this vertical wall, climbing over the top, and then jumping over the wall into the frenzy with guns blasting and a +16 in attack rolls, hitting every single mark, just dropping whatever you're fighting left and right, with this Psyker right at the middle of all of it. I mean, is that not an alpha Psyker kind of thing right there? It also means that if you were a pie with your measly little 1 sensitivity, you could essentially just work together with somebody, and for some reason, every time you two work together, that guy does better. We don't know why, we can't explain it, but for some reason, every time these two people work together, he does better. So we keep putting these two people together. Why not? Why wreck a good thing? I'm inclined to tie the morale bonus into sensitivity, but I'm really interested to hear what you say. I'm gonna move on, but in the chat, let me know how you feel about that. I will come back to that later. Next, get this out of here. Telepathy. So we already did Puppet Master because that's right up there with Dominate. Terrify. So Terrify is really simple. Terrify is just going to be cause fear. And like before, we're just going to... we'll tie that into the number of targets. So we got cause fear, we've got fear of the sun, fearsome duplicate, we've got just straight up fear. I mean, let's look at fear, just straight up fear. It's a 30-foot cone. There's a motorcycle gang going by outside. 30-foot cone, one round per level, or just straight up one round. It's an invisible cone of terror that causes each living thing in the area to become panicked unless it succeeds a will save. If cornered, a panicked creature then begins cowering. If a will save succeeds, they are then shaken for one round. I think I'm going to go with this one, actually. Just because it is the higher level, and it does exactly what I want. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to go Terrify. I'm just going to say this is going to be a close cone. And it's going to affect number of targets equal to sensitivity, as it usually does. It's going to be a will DC. But it's not going to be versus death. I'm just going to say will DC versus psychic power, and then it's going to be as fear. Because everything else will still apply. It'll still be a cone. Everything in the area will become panicked unless it succeeds a will save. If it's cornered, it'll begin cowering. If the will save succeeds, they're instead shaken for one round. Everything about that is good. So we just need to do this. And I think that's fine. That should be easy. Next is invisibility. This one's going to be a bit harder. Because again, this says reaching into the minds of their foes, they obscure themselves and their allies from the enemy's visual line of sight. And that's difficult. But I think I have the easy solution. So the thing about invisibility is that we have rules for this. Where's just invisibility? There it is. Alright, so under invisibility, which is a great spell. If you're ever playing fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, or Pathfinder and something, somebody should have invisibility. You never know when you're going to need it. So the creature object touch becomes invisible. Let's look at that, because this is actually important. So an invisible creature becomes visually undetectable. An invisible creature gains a +2 bonus on attack rolls against sighted opponents and ignores the opponent's dexterity bonus to AC, so it becomes touch AC. See the invisibility special ability. Now, the reason why I want to pick up on this is because of this. Where is blind? So a blinded creature cannot see. It takes a -2 penalty on an armor class, loses dexterity bonus to AC, takes a -4 on most strength and dex-based skills, and on opposed perception skill checks. All checks and activities that rely on vision, such as reading and perception, automatically fail. All opponents are considered to have total concealment, which is a 50% mischance against the blinded character. Blind characters must make a DC 10 acrobatic skill check to move faster than half speed. Now, it's that concealment part that I want to focus on. All opponents are considered to have total concealment. What I think we should do is when we use invisibility in the Warhammer context, the other character is not becoming blind to everything. It's just becoming blind to us. And so what I think we need to focus on is that we need to be treated like we have total concealment. And I don't think that's even listed in here. Let's see. The spell ends if they attack a creature. For the purposes of the spell, this bonus is reduced to a +20 if they're moving. It ends if they attack a creature. Now that's got to be different, because this assumes that you have enchanted yourself. And if you attack something, you are breaking your enchantment. This is not on you, this is on them. And so I don't see you being able to break this. So we're going to say, we're going to put invisibility here. Invisibility. And of course, this is going to be close. It's going to affect a number of targets equal to your sensitivity, as it always does. And I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to gain total concealment versus targets. Oh, but we got to get the dice in here somewhere. It's going to be a will DC for psychic power. Then we will gain total concealment versus the targets for a number of rounds equal to... Now, do we want to make it the psychic, or do we want to make it their sensitivity? Yeah, I think so. Because there needs to be a way for this to go really well or really poorly for you. So rolling dice is the best. So when you become invisible, you get to pick a number of targets. They get to roll a will save versus your ability, which, since it's your... Oh, I put psychic sensitivity there. I want psychic power. There. So you roll the dice. They have to make a will DC. If they fail it, then you get to roll your psychic power again, and you gain total concealment versus those targets for whatever you just rolled. Which could be short, could be long. Either way, I think it's good. And of course, this does not stop them from being able to perceive the rest of their environment. It's only you that gains total concealment. However, there is something that I'm neglecting here. There is something I'm neglecting here. And this is actually going to even it out a bit. So the will save is not going to change. What I need to change here is this. Um... How do I want to phrase this? I'm going to say selected allies gain total concealment versus selected targets. So you might be an alpha level psyker and you might be able to affect 16 people at once. However, you might be dividing that. If you have 8 people with you and you don't care about concealing yourself, you could make 8 people on your team disappear to the 8 people on the other side. I think that'll balance it out very well. Or, if you're up against like a large force, you could make yourself invisible to everyone. I like that. I rather like that a lot. What's the last one? Hallucination. This should actually be easy. We already discussed this. JP was saying he's a big fan of mass hallucinations, but we've got maddening hallucinations. And this is the one that I think that I want to use. So, hallucination. This, of course, is going to be close. Again, it's going to affect a number of targets. And yeah, I'll just do it with this one. So I'm going to just say as mad hallucination for a number of turns equal to psychic power. It's a will DC equal to psychic power. Alright, so that should be good right there. And anybody who gets affected by this will take a -2 penalty on their will saving throws, caster level checks, and any intelligence or wisdom based skill checks. Which is, you know, kind of a lot actually. And I think that'll make that easy. Alright, so there's our telepathy. And since nobody actually chimed in about the mental fortitude, I guess we'll leave it as is? I don't know, I'm still undecided on that. But that does telepathy. Overall, it's not bad. It could be a lot worse. I mean, the Psychic Shriek is incredibly powerful, but also incredibly dangerous given that it affects friends and foe. Dominate is exactly as broken as I wanted it to be. But again, all psychic powers come with drawbacks, so I'm inclined to leave it be. Mental Fortitude, I think, is going to be fantastic. Terrify is fun. It might be useful. Invisibility, I think it's going to be a lot more situational than I expected it to be. But I think it'll be fine. And Hallucination, I don't know, maybe it'll work. Hallucination and Mental Fortitude used in tandem would completely destroy an encounter. Like, if you can buff everybody on your side of the team and then penalize everyone on the other side, yeah, the fight's over. Alright, telepathy's done. Let's move on to the real bear in the room. Divination. I so don't want to do this one. Let's take a look. telekinesis, pyromancy, divination. Alright, let's take a look. So, diviners seek to discern the hidden past of the galaxy and know the course of events yet to come. These abilities allow diviners to look into the twisting strands of the immaterium in search of the answers they seek, and sometimes even influence the outcome of fate itself. No DM likes divination. Alright, so what can we do in 40k? The first thing, of course, is prescience. The Psyker can effortlessly predict the paths of bullets and swords alike by focusing their witch sight even more closely. They can guide their allies' aim, bringing swift and merciless death to their foes. There are actually already spells that'll do something similar to that we might be able to borrow from. Next is foreboding. Thanks to their warp-gifted insights, the Psyker and their allies are aware that their foes are about to charge, even before the foes themselves have realized it, allowing them to prepare a staunch defense. Again, that seems to really fall in line with prescience. The only real difference is time. Prescience is all about things that are happening like right now, so that you can literally dodge bullets. Whereas foreboding, you're talking about a prescience of maybe minutes or hours instead. Same thing, just different time frames. Misfortune. With a click of their fingers, the diviner twists fate so that their followers' melee blows and ranged weapon shots punch through the weakest points of their opponent's armor. That's basically just critical hits. I don't know if I want to include that, but maybe we'll work on it. Next is perfect timing. As soon as their consciousness pierces the veil of the warp, a rush of images floods their mind, foretelling actions of their enemies down to the merest microsecond. Armed with this information, the diviner's allies can predict exactly where their foes will peer out from behind cover and expose themselves to a lethal headshot. Somebody please explain to me, what is the difference between prescience and perfect timing? Because they seem to be exactly the same thing, except now instead of talking about different lengths of time, we're talking about different locations. Prescience is about what's happening to you, whereas perfect timing is about what you're going to do to them, but they're still both basically the same thing. I don't know. PC Unicorn's in the chat, though, and says, was Pinkie Pie a Psyker with divination? No. No, Pinkie Pie was absolutely a Psyker, but Pinkie Pie was more of a generalist. Pinkie Pie had aspects of multiple different Psyker disciplines. Alright, precognition. Having already witnessed one true path to victory, the diviner strides across the battlefield like an avenging god of war. Whilst the premonitions run true, they are all but undefeatable, proof against bullet and bolt, blade, and bombardment. However, should their self-wrought prophecies fade or turn false, they will surely be doomed to ignominious defeat. Man, you never get to use the word ignominious anymore. We should bring that word back. Precognition. We'll get into divination stuff. Scryer's gaze. The diviner can see the whole battlefield clearly in their mind's eye, with the vantage point of a hunting hawk and the precision of a laser. The to and fro of armies and war machines is but the scurrying of ants beneath their omniscient gaze. Thus can the diviner direct exactly where and when they and their allies are most needed to turn the tide, leaving no clue behind as to how this trickery was achieved. Okay, that is literally just scrying, and we already have spells for that. Now, in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, that's usually done through a medium, but we can skip the medium and just say, look, you're scrying, you're doing it. What I'm seeing here is that so much of this is basically the same thing. Prescience, foreboding, and perfect timing are all basically the same. Misfortune is a little bit different, because this is actually... it's an actual, like, tangible effect. Precognition, we might get into, and then scrying is just scrying. So why don't we go back to spells? And we're going to go all the way down to level 9, okay? And we're going to look at level 9 divination, because it is there. There's not much, but it is there. Because we do literally have foresight. Psykers. We've got foreboding, and then precognition. Precognition might also be a thing. No, they don't have that here. Okay. So no precognition, but we do have foresight. So why don't we look into that? So this is what we have in Pathfinder, and this is what foresight does here. So this spell grants you a powerful sixth sense in relation to yourself or another. Once foresight is cast, you receive instantaneous warnings of impending danger or harm to the subject of the spell. You are never surprised or flat-footed. In addition, the spell gives you a general idea of what action you might take to best protect yourself and gives you a +2 insight bonus to AC and on reflex saves. This insight bonus is lost whenever you would lose your dexterity bonus to AC. When another creature is subject of the spell, you receive warnings about that creature. You must communicate what you learn to the other creature for the full warning to be useful, and that creature can be caught unprepared in the absence of such a warning. Shouting a warning, yanking a person back, or even telepathically communicating via the appropriate spell can all be accomplished before some danger befalls the subject, providing you act on the warning without delay. The subject, however, does not gain the insight bonus to AC or reflex saves. And so this is all you're really getting in Pathfinder. It's a +2 bonus to your armor class, your reflex saves. I mean, you're also never surprised or flat-footed, but that rarely happens in general anyway. It's a nice bonus, but the real thing here is the +2 insight on AC and reflex saves. Which, by the way, this is a level 9 spell. So, honestly, it's kind of underwhelming for a level 9 spell. JP says, can that one person be self? Yes, it can be. It is by default yourself. You would actually have to stipulate that you want to see somebody else's future. Mythic Foresight, the insight bonus becomes a +3. If you cast it into the person, you and that person are simultaneously warned by the spell instead. Overall, though, it's not great. So with that in mind, why don't we look at some of the other divination spells? Because divination is probably the smallest school. So, level 8 divination, Arcane Sight. It's not really going to help us, although we could call that Warp Sight. Insect Spies, no. Retrocognition. Gain psychic impressions from past events in a location. There's Greater Scrying, which is fine. And JP says, I'd totally affect a crystal ball in my process. Actually, that's a choice. One of the things that we haven't gone over, because it's not terribly important right now, is that when you're talking about like magic in Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, one of the things about that, especially if you play Wizard, is that you have to cast your spells. Now, when casting a spell, this usually involves one of, or even all of, the following things. A verbal component, where you actually have to speak the spell. A somatic component, which is what you do with your hands. Do you have to make gestures? Do you have to wave your arms? Whatever it is. There may be a material component involved, where you have to be holding, touching, whatever, a certain material. And there may even be something called a focus, where you have to hold and use an item to cast the spell. You can use some of these, you can use all of them. However, this does have the effect that if somebody else knows the words, knows the gestures, recognizes the material, or sees the focus, they might be able to know what you're doing. And that is because all spells are essentially cast in the same way, with a few minor differences from wizard to wizard. When it comes to psychic powers in Warhammer 40k, though, there is no such thing. Every Psyker does things differently. The example that they gave on the wiki, and I wonder if it's in here, or if I can find it. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. So it should be noted that while two different Psykers may both use the same discipline, their powers are likely to manifest in unique, idiosyncratic ways. Again, we're using all the fun words today. So, for example, an Imperial Psyker using the Pyromancy discipline may hurl blazing bolts of fire shaped like an avenging two-headed eagle, the Imperial Aquila. Whilst a corrupt Chaos Sorcerer might conjure a multi-hued conflagration of living warp fire. And an Orc Psyker or Weird Boy could just vomit cones of billowing green flames. Green flames! Had to be done. So, everyone is going to do things differently. And one of the things that I will go through when we get to this module is to sit down with that player and say, okay, you managed to roll a Psyker. Now, I want to have a theme for you. Like when you're casting energy, what does that energy look like? What do you do? What is like your go-to move when you're using these things? Do you cast from your head? Do you cast from your mouth? Do you cast from your hands? Where do these things come from? So that we can really kind of develop a certain style for that Psyker. That does mean, though, that if your character wants to use a crystal ball, you could totally do that. Maybe the crystal ball is required for you to cast all of your abilities. Maybe it's not and you just think it does. Either way, it doesn't matter because you carry this crystal ball with you. No one is stupid enough to ask you why you carry a crystal ball because you can literally incinerate an entire tank with your mind. So you have this crystal ball that you carry with you, and when you fire off a beam of lightning, you hold forth the ball and it shoots out of the ball. Whenever you want to scry on the battlefield, you hold it up and you look into the crystal ball and you can see the battlefield. Whenever you want to dominate somebody, you hold it up and you view them through the crystal ball and you dominate their mind. Yes, you can do it however you want. Now, there could be a trade-off to that. What happens if something happens to your crystal ball? Do you suddenly lose the ability to use your psychic abilities? Or do we have to put, say, a penalty on you and say, well, you can still try, but maybe you have to take disadvantage on all of your rolls now? It could open up some very interesting avenues. But everybody will have to have some kind of style. And JP says if all else fails, beat the shit out of somebody with it. I mean, have you ever held a crystal ball? They are not light. Like a ball of solid glass or crystal is heavy as shit. Like, if you bash somebody in the head with an actual crystal ball, you will kill them. A crystal ball is obviously made out of glass, and if anyone has ever worked with glass, you know that glass is heavy as shit. I would put a crystal ball on par with a bowling ball, and I'm not even sure how bowling balls are made. I don't know if they're like solid stone, or if they have like a core in them of some kind. But yeah, I mean, the only reason you can't go bowling with a crystal ball is because it doesn't have holes in it. Also, it might break. I've never actually seen a bowling ball break. Crystal ball, if you drop it, it probably would. But yes, you could use a crystal ball if you wanted to. Every single Psyker gets some kind of little idiosyncrasy to them that affects how they cast things. It's going to be one of the things that's going to make it really a lot of fun. I mean, what if you are a Psyker, and one of the things that you do is you cast with your hands? What if you're like, let's call you a punch Psyker. So you like to punch, and when you do that, you can throw fireballs from your fists. Or you punch and you shoot a bolt of lightning. Or you punch and you reach for somebody, and that's how you use dominate person. You literally reach out to them. Okay, so what if you're like one of these punch Psykers, and somebody ties you up? Okay, your arms are tied behind your back. Can you still use your psychic abilities? I don't know. We would have to explore that. And I'm all for exploring it. Okay, something that I want to look at. And that is, I want to look into prescience. Because there should be time somewhere. So the knowledge domain, there's thought here. Evil, murder, family, riot. Alright, I've got to be able to find time in here somewhere. So artifice is alchemy, construct, industry, trial, trap. Chaos is not what I'm going to want. Charm, no. Community, no. Darkness, no. Death, no. Destruction, no. Earth, no. And not erosion, not fear, not fire, not glory, not good, not healing, not knowledge, not law, not liberation, not luck. Is there nothing about time? Not nobility, not protection, no. Not trickery, because that would be like the opposite of what I want to do. No, it's not in here. All right, hold on. I need to do a Google search here. Let's see. PFSRD precognition. Aha! Here we go. There is a precognition. It's under psionics. Alright, I'm not going to pull this up. We're just going to take a look at it. So, precognition. This is like level 1. So, this is a level 1 psychic power. Precognition allows your mind to glimpse fragments of potential future events, which, what you see will probably happen if no one takes action to change it. However, your vision is incomplete and makes no real sense until the actual events you glimpse begin to unfold. That's when everything begins to come together, and you can act if you act swiftly on the information you previously received from, or when you manifest this power. In practice, manifesting this power gives you a precognitive edge. Normally, you can have a single precognitive edge at one time. You must use your edge within a period of no more than 10 minutes per level, at which time your pre-knowledge fades and you lose the edge. You can use your precognitive edge in a variety of ways. Essentially, the edge translates to a +2 insight bonus that you can apply at any one time to either an attack roll, a damage roll, or a saving throw, or a skill check. You can elect to apply the bonus to a roll after you determine your unmodified roll is lower than is desired. Alright, I don't like necessarily that, but I might be able to use some of that. So we're going to need to have precognition. Okay, we know that. We got to have precognition of some kind. So let's go ahead and make a list here. So prescience, foreboding, and perfect timing. I'm going to roll all this together into precognition. We're going to go ahead and get misfortune. Well, actually, we already literally have precognition here. However, I may go ahead and use the foresight in place of precognition. So we're going to make this one prescience. And then precognition will go down here. And then scry will go there. So for prescience, the range is just going to be self, I think. Now, the real question is, what are we going to do for it? So we know we're going to have a floating bonus that we can apply to different things. And how are we going to do this? So I need to use their sensitivity, and I need to use a psychic power roll. And I needed to use one of them for time and one of them for effect, I think. I'm going to bring up that entire psychic list, I think, actually. Base classes. Where is the psychic? Hybrid classes, unchained, occults. Here we go, psychics. Spell casting, and they use the special psychic spell list. Prestidigitation, don't want that. But precognition should be right down here. Summon monster, here we go. Wait, LMNOP, okay, so it was before then. Peace bond, where is it? Prestidigitation, comprehend. Say, I literally just looked it up. Oppressive boredom, suppress charms, erase impressions, repress memory, moment of prescience. You know what? Let's take a look at that. Why don't we take a look at that? We'll open that in a new tab. Moment of prescience. This gives you a Sixth Sense. Once during the spell's duration, you may choose to use this effect. It gives you an insight bonus equal to your caster level. So, in your insight level to a maximum of 25 on any single attack roll, combat maneuver check, opposed ability, or skill check, or saving throw. Alternately, you can apply the insight bonus to your AC against a single attack, even if you are flat-footed. And it lasts for 1 hour per level, or until discharged. I think this is the way to go, actually. I think this is the way to go. We can use the sensitivity, I believe, for the duration. So it lasts for 1 hour per level, but if we made that psychic power, that means that, well, your alpha level psyker could be able to see up to, because that's what we're talking about here, your moment of prescience. You're talking about being able to see into the future. That means that your level 1, your level 1 alpha psyker will be able to see up to 64 hours into the future on a max roll. Which is significant. That's more than, or that's almost 3 days. And we're talking about if we make the bonus that you get equal to their sensitivity, that means that your alpha level psyker will be able to apply a plus 16 to any one roll within that 64 hours. I think this is actually better than what I was looking at before. I like this. I'm gonna do that. Okay. So, for 1 hour per I'm just going to put a bracket here and say well, no, I'm going to say for 1 hour times roll psychic power, you may apply a bonus to any roll equal to your sensitivity This may be applied after the roll is made. So again, 1 hour per or times the roll for psychic power, which means that if you are just a low level psyker, it might not be that long. It also might not be that big of a boost, but for the for an alpha level psyker, having that plus 16 on there, it could be argued that that might even allow you to negate a critical failure. I mean, in general, in general, rolling a 1 on anything would be a critical failure, but if you could apply this after the roll is made, you could make the argument that you're turning that 1 into a 17. It's incredibly powerful. I mean, pretty much to a broken degree. Okay, let's get back into something that's maybe less broken. So, Misfortune. Now, this one is going to be interesting. Because this one states that you are going to... let's see, blows and melee blows and ranged weapon shots punch through the weakest points in opponent's armor. There's a couple of things here. Number one, that pretty much automatically assumes that you hit. We have something for that. It is a level 1 spell, I believe. I think. Or is it a cantrip? I'm not sure. Here we go. True Strike. So, True Strike. It is a level... It's level 1. Okay. And it is actually a divination spell, so I mean, that's great. So, True Strike gives you a plus 20 on your attack roll. Now, one of the things that it does not do is increase your critical chance. True Strike is also regarded as being one of the worst spells ever in D&D ever. But I think we can improve on that. So, True Strike will give you a plus 20 on your next attack roll, which basically guarantees that you hit. But, what can we do? Unerring Weapon, it gives you a plus 2 bonus, plus 1 for 4 caster levels on attack rolls to confirm a critical hit. Now, that doesn't mean that you get a critical hit easier. Just to confirm it. I think. I don't know. Let's take a look. This causes your weapon to veer closer to vital areas. Exactly what we're looking at. Improving the result of a critical hit. The transmutation grants a plus 2 bonus on attack rolls to confirm critical hits. Plus 1 additional bonus per 4 caster levels. If the spell is cast on projectiles, the effect ends on a specific projectile whenever that projectile is used to make the attack, regardless of whether the attack hits. For this spell, shurikens are considered projectiles. So, this is only to confirm a critical hit, which is kind of what I have a problem with. So, when you make an attack roll and get a natural 20, which is to say the d20 shows a 20, you hit regardless of the target's armor class, and you have scored a threat, meaning the hit might be a critical hit. To find out whether it is, you immediately make an attempt to confirm the critical hit, which is another attack roll with all the same modifiers that you just made. If the confirmation roll also results in a hit against the target's AC, your original hit is critical. The critical roll just needs to hit to give you the crit. It doesn't need to come up a natural 20 again. Although, I will say this, I do run on the triple crit system. If you roll a critical hit, or if you roll a critical threat rather, you get to roll again. If you roll a natural 20 again, it is now a death strike. If you confirm the death strike, you instantly kill your target. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but I have had it happen multiple times while I have been running games. It is one of those things that kind of stops the game when it does hit, because like everybody just has a party. I don't necessarily see the point of this, though. It doesn't actually help you get those crits. So what I think that we need to do is we're going to make kind of our own thing. So this is going to be a close range ability. And what we're going to do is I think that we are going to, number one, affect a number of targets equal to sensitivity, just like we always do. So that takes care of our sensitivity number, which means that the more sensitive you are as a Psyker, the better you'll be at this. Now, what I think we're going to do is we are going to grant each target the improved critical feat. So that will essentially double their list. And I do have to be specific because improved critical is a feat in Starfinder. And unfortunately, I have to specify this because improved critical in Starfinder increases the DC to resist critical effects of your critical hits by 2. And I don't really want that. I want to actually expand the crits. So I'm just going to say the improved critical Pathfinder feat, which is much, much different. If we come down here to feats, accursed critical, blighted, dispelling, greater, liberating. Wait, hold on. Where is it? Critical feats, critical focus, critical mastery. Here we go. Improved critical. This one is very simple. It applies to a particular weapon. Each time you take it, it applies to a new weapon type. When using the weapon you selected, your threat range is doubled. That means that for most weapons, it goes from just a 20 to a 19 and 20, so it makes it easier for you to get the crits. So we're going to grant the improved critical Pathfinder feat, and we're going to give a bonus. So a bonus to attack rolls equal to psychic power. Now again, this means that we're going to include both the sensitivity and the psychic power, so you get a bonus for being a stronger Psyker, and you get a bonus for rolling, or you get to roll the dice for your psychic power. It means that, let's take our Mu class Psyker, who has a psychic sensitivity of 5. They get to roll at level 1 5d4s, which means it could max out at 20, which is true strike. It'll more than likely be lower than that, though. And let's be honest, with 5d4s, you're talking about the 8 to 12 area. Still, though, 8 to 12 on your attack roll, plus improved critical, it means that you have a better chance at getting those crits, a better chance at confirming those crits. And I think this really works out well. Okay, that being done, let's go back down to Foresight. So for Foresight, this is going to make it so that we cannot be surprised or flat-footed. We get that +2 insight bonus to our AC and on reflex saves. This is all very good. I like it. It lasts for 10 minutes per level. I don't think there's anything in here that really lets you see further than that. Again, I want to look at divination. So divination. And we're going to start at level 0 and we're going to look through these because I want to see if I can find something that gives us a bit more. So detect fiendish presence, no. Detect magic, detect poison, grasp, and read magic. Nope, don't really want to do that. Alright, level 1. Anticipate peril. Targets gain a bonus on 1 initiative check. Okay, that's fine, but kind of useless usually. Authenticating gaze, no. Comprehend languages, it's good, but no, it's not what we want here. Cultural adaptation, the Imperium does not adapt. The Imperium conquers. Detect charm, detect metal, detect radiation. I know some people who could use that. Detect secret doors, detect undead, discern next of kin, ears of the city, no. Heightened awareness, identify, link legacy, lock sight, mages, perusal, mind link. I don't see anything in here that's really important, so we're moving on. Anticipate thoughts, blood transcription, no. Carrying compass, commune with birds. Lots of detect, elemental speech. Identifiers I, no. Psychic reading. I don't think I'm going to find what I want until we get into the higher levels. Alright, this should be level 3. Arcane Sight, Aura Sight, Blood Biography, Claromancy. Let's see, Find Faults, Fortune's Path, Guided Whispers. See, what I think that we really want to get into is going to be things like commune. And why don't we go to that? Because that's a spell that I think we're really trying to touch on here. That's going to be a cleric spell. So we need to go to the divine spell list. Okay, commune. So here's how this works. Commune is a very, very dangerous spell if you are a DM running a game. Because commune is everything that you do not want to happen in a game. If you have a cleric, if they have this spell, one of the fortunate things is they need holy or unholy water, depending on whether they're good or evil. They need incense worth 500 gold pieces, which depending on the game, depending on the DM, could be a lot, could be a little. If it's a little, you are so screwed. You contact your deity or the agents thereof and ask questions that can be answered by a very simple yes or no. Now, here's where they think they're being restrictive. However, a clever player can get a lot of information out of a yes or a no, depending on how it's phrased. A cleric of no deity contacts a philosophically allied deity. Who cares? You are allowed to ask one such question per caster level. The answers given are correct within the limits of the entity's knowledge. Unclear is a legitimate answer, because powerful beings of the outer plane are not necessarily omniscient. And that is going to be true even in Warhammer, because we're talking about dealing with the warp. The warp is chaos incarnate. So everything that you learn, it's hard to tell whether it's true or not. In cases where a one-word answer would be misleading or contrary to the deity's interest, a short phrase, 5 words or less, may be given as an answer instead. The spell, at best, provides information to aid character decisions. The entities contacted structure their answers to further their own purposes. If you lag, discuss the answers, or go off to do anything else, the spell ends. So essentially, once Commune is cast, all tabletop chatter must stop. It is only the cleric that gets to talk. Still though, one question per character level can be a lot, especially since you get it at level 5. So you're automatically starting off with, let's see, at level 5. You get your first level 5 spell at level 9, so you get to start with 9 questions. That is essentially what we want precognition to be. And so that's what it's going to be. The question, however, is this is a really, really powerful spell, and do I want you to be able to use this any number of times per day? The answer to that is no. And so I'm limited to how do I want to do this? Because again, this is the last day that we're doing these combat related. Starting next week, we will be doing these. So we'll be done with combat. We're going to start on the local, regional, continental, planetary. I think that I may need to restrict precognition to be anything at the combat level. So I think precognition is going to be... I think it's going to be pause, combat, and I think that it will allow the Psyker to ask a number of questions equal to sensitivity about, well, just about the combat. Yes or no answers. This will make sure that it stays balanced, and we'll have a precognition for every single level. We'll have a precognition for local, for regional, for continental, and for planetary. And this will allow the Psyker to be able to basically just divine whatever information. So precognition, you'll be able to find out whatever you really want to know about what's going to happen in this combat. And it's like, you'll be able to find out, I think, what are they carrying, what are they doing, what are their tactics, anything that would allow you to prepare for what you're going into. I think that'll be fair, and I think that's going to be a lot better than just giving a +2 to your AC and your reflex save. I think that'll be a lot better. So the last one that we're going to do, we're going to get through this one really quick because this is going to be really easy. So, Scry. This is, of course, an oldie but a goodie. Scrying, here we go. Okay, so scrying. It is a level, well, it's varied. It's a moderate level spell. Casting time is an hour. It requires a verbal component, somatic component requires material or divine focus. So you'll need either a pool of water or a silver mirror. However, that being said, traditionally you can scry with whatever you want, so long as you can see into it or through it in some way. Technically speaking, I have heard of people using smoke as a scrying focus. Literally, you can use smoke or fire as a scrying focus. People have done so in the past. You can observe a creature from a distance. If the subject succeeds a will save, the spell fails. The difficulty of the save depends on how well your knowledge of the subject is and what sort of physical connection, if any, you have to that creature. Furthermore, if the subject is on another plane, it gets a +5 bonus to its will save. So, if you have knowledge of them, you get bonuses. If you have a connection, they get bonuses. Then there's Scrying Greater. It functions just like Scrying, except for noted above. Additionally, the following spells function reliably through the sensor. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so as with all divination spells, the sensor has full visual acuity, including any magical effects. In addition, the following spells have a 5% chance of operating through the sensor. Don't care. And if they succeed on the save, you cannot attempt to scry on them again. But essentially, I mean, it's very open. You can just see. You can see, you can hear, you know what's going on. And this says a subject. However, that subject does not necessarily have to be a creature. You can technically scry on a place as well. They might have this be a different spell. Sphere scry, remotely view through spheres that have consumed some portion of the caster's body. No. Text scrying. Symbol. Scrying greater. Okay, so they don't actually have another spell for it, but you can totally scry locations. Okay, and the range on this is basically infinite. Which kind of makes me feel like it shouldn't be here. But I'm going to fill this in anyway. So I'm just going to say special. And I'm going to say that... Does it say how long it lasts? It lasts for 1 minute per level. So I'm going to say for 1 minute per sensitivity. Yeah, 1 minute per sensitivity. View a creature or location for... Or no, just view a creature or location. Creatures may make a will save DC, not DEC, DC psychic power. So you may not be able to view it for very long. However, you can view a location or creature and again, I feel like I need to do this, or I need to shrink this in some way. Again, this may be like precognition, where there'll be a different level of it for each one. So, for example, this scrying, I may need to restrict it to, say, maybe 10 feet per sensitivity. So, even your Alpha Psyker could only necessarily see out to 160 feet for 1 point. However, when we get to the local level, maybe it'll be 1 mile per sensitivity. However, then you're spending 5 points to do it, so the cost will go up. And then the same thing will go to the other one. So if it's like the regional level, it could be 100 miles per sensitivity. So that maxes out at 1,600 miles. But that's going to cost you 25 points. I think the cost is what's going to really make Scry different. But you know what? We'll work on that next time because we are out of time for today. Either way, though, I think we're done. So we've got our telepathy and we've got our divination done. Both of them are going to be very unique. I don't know how effective they're going to be. I do think that telepathy, in terms of combat, is going to be much more important. Divination, however, will have a very large effect when it comes to the role-playing side of the game. Misfortune, of course, will have a great deal of effect in combat, but things like prescience, it'll have less. I mean, it'll have a great one use, but that'll be about it. All right, though. That is where we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave it off today. When we get back next time, like I said, we will step up to the local level. And we'll talk about the things that a Psyker can do to an entire town or city. Because yes, Psykers have that kind of power, and it's going to be absolutely terrifying. It's also going to be much quicker because the amount of things that they can do to an entire city are going to be somewhat lesser. We're talking about only 1 or 2 things per discipline. They'll only be able to do like maybe 1 or 2 things from the energy release. They'll only be able to do 1 or 2 things from the healing or the buffing or debuffing, things like that. So there's going to be a lot going on there. So if you want to see that, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, because it's going to get nuts. Psykers are going to be so insane. So hit the bell icon if you want to be notified the next time we do this. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop games or Warhammer 40k, I would highly suggest you share this with them, especially if they're into Psykers, because our Psykers are kind of going to be better than theirs. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but my Psykers are going to be awesome. If you know somebody, if you know somebody else, just share that with them. If you like what I'm doing here, if you're enjoying this, leave a like on the video. If you want to, go ahead, leave a comment down below. If you want to chat with us, because there's more of us out there, you can always join the Discord. The link is down there. I am pretty sure that it works, because I've had people joining. So it should be good. And if you want to play with us, make sure you come to the Discord. You have to come to the Discord if you want to play. Come to the Behind the Screens channel. Let me know what your availability is, and I will find a game for you to play in. We're not doing 40k yet, but we will get there. So do that if you want to come play with us. Otherwise, I will see you back here next week for the local Psykers. And until then, take care.